Good morning, friends. Strictly Average here with your daily dose of Cup of Average. The nice short videos you can drink with your coffee in the morning at work, afternoon on break, whatever. By now you know the whole spiel. We're running a little bit behind schedule on our posting these. Haven't missed a day this week yet, but I've had a couple videos that I kind of pre-staged ahead of time that they all just came out well below my expectations. So I've been kind of doing this ad hoc every day. The plan is for our schedule going forward, I want to try to do something new and fresh on Mondays. Have something talking about the weekend and relevant news and whatnot, what's going on. And then throughout the rest of the week, I'm going to have just prepared 5 to 10 minute videos for you covering different things. One thing I want to talk about going forward is sideboarding in Magic. Just little tips and level up advice like that. The kind of forecast speculation, finance speculations, and the money things that are more time sensitive will be coming out on Mondays or as needed if I see something big coming out. So right now is the Thursday before SCG-Con. That's a big event in Roanoke where they're going to be doing their invitational alongside of a no ban modern open, alongside a massive vintage event and a couple other classics, a legacy classic and a standard classic. I'm going to be attending for the standard classic on Sunday, so I'm going to spend Friday doing pretty much vendor things. I got a lot of stuff I got to bring up and get some credit for and buy some things for people. And then Saturday I'm going to focus on side events, and Sunday I'll be playing the classic. One thing I want to touch upon, because this is so close and it may not affect you for the SCG-Con, and it just may affect you going forward, is I have a lot of friends and Magic players that I deal with on many different levels. Some people just play at home, play at the kitchen table. Some people play F&M. Some people grind the SCG Open, their opens every weekend, and they spend all their time playing those. Other guys I know may do a GP once a year when it comes by their house. So I'm really going to focus on the guys that aren't too familiar with the big events. And one of the questions I get all the time is, I want to play, but I'm nervous. And what do I need to know going into a big event? So if you're a first timer for a big event, or you haven't been in years, who knows? Here's a couple tips that I was taught, and they help me greatly. Number one piece of advice is during gameplay, if you have a question, call a judge. Make it clear to your opponent and to the judge that you're not trying to get somebody, you're not trying to get an advantage, you're not trying to force your opponent to get a warning over a simple mistake. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand the rules. You're trying to understand what is supposed to happen. Because in that sense, you're covering yourself. I once had an opponent immediately call a judge on himself, and because he forgot the D sideboard, so his deck wasn't the way it should be for game one. And I forget the exact scenario, but if it was something that I had noticed or the game had gone on, he could have gotten a game lost for that mistake. But because he chose to call it on himself, and he called the judge before any decisions were made, the judge came over, he talked to us, and I believe the resolution was he was allowed to fix his sideboard, and he was on a forced mulligan to 6 on his first hand, which I was perfectly fine with, because that's a simple mistake that a lot of us can make. And I thought that it was great that the judge was so thankful that he kind of called it on himself. So don't be afraid to call a judge on yourself. Don't be afraid to call a judge to ask about an interaction that you don't understand. That's what they're there for. Second big piece of advice for playing at a big tournament: if you're going to be playing a main event where you're looking at 8 or 9 rounds, bring snacks. Power bars, kind bars, fruit, whatever. Keep them in your bag. You're going to have rounds that run long. You're going to be playing Magic for a long length of time throughout the day, and the worst part is when you get hungry. If you're trying to play Magic and you're starving, it's going to mess with you, especially if you're a fatty like me. More along those lines is it's great to work in groups of buddies. Because if you go with 3 or 4 or 5 friends that are all playing the main event, the chances of all 5 of you doing very well throughout the whole day and going the time every round is very slim. Keep cash on you, and whoever the guy falling behind, or maybe he's already O2 dropped, he can become the food mule for everybody else. More advice for playing the main event, stay hydrated. I know it sounds like that's kind of synonymous with eating, but a lot of people will bring snacks, but they won't bring a water in their bag. And that's just as bad, because if you're dehydrated, you can't think straight, you make poor decisions. You want to be able to focus on your game. You want to focus on your round, on your game plan, not on external factors. So let's talk about that a little bit. A lot of people I know love playing Control. And when they go and they try to play their first main event, I talk to them like, hey guy, just don't do that to yourself. Don't play your extremely difficult 4-color modern Control deck in the main event. If you want to play a main event, you want to learn about how it goes, you want to see how things go, you want to just kind of get the feel for it, borrow burn from somebody. Make your rounds be 20 minutes whether you win or lose. Because the last thing you want to be doing is, without experience or endurance or stamina for the game, do you want to be doing 50-minute rounds for 8 or 9 rounds a day. You're going to be burnt, exhausted, and your decision making at the end of the day is going to be poor. I go into every main event with the expectation that I'm going to play the full day, hoping that I'm going to make day 2. Newsflash, I'm strictly average. I have not made day 2 yet of a main event. I've been very close, but I haven't. So I know what the long and grueling days can do to you. Another quick piece of advice. This one seems a little odd, but bathroom breaks. A lot of people that I know will end a round, they will rush and try to get a bathroom break in, get back to their table, and sometimes they're late, sometimes they get a warning for being late. A judge, as far as I know, unless you do it every single round, will not give you a warning or discipline you for calling a judge because you need to use the restroom. What's happened in my experience is you sit down at your match, as soon as the round starts, raise your hand, judge, I need to use the restroom. Judge comes over, starts the time that you're leaving, you go use the restroom, taking your time, not rushing it, wash your hands, get cleaned up, sanitize, come back. Now your round will get extended that little bit of time that you missed for using the restroom, instead of you being against the gun trying to rush and get back real quick. And as far as that, playing the main event, just have fun. Play your game. Try to kind of ignore what's going on around you. That's one of the hardest things, because there's so many different things going on around you that you can just get distracted. Some other just little pieces of advice about these events. Star City runs these all-day passes that you could buy, and you can do, like at this SCG Con, you could pay $80 for one-day pass, and you could do as many challenges as you want. Or you could do $100 for the whole weekend. And my advice is, if you're going in with multiple decks on your person, you have a Pauper deck, you have a Modern deck, you have a Standard deck, you have whatever, and you have all of these, and you want to play as many side events as you can, you want to try to grind tickets, then yes, absolutely, you do this. Play the first 2 rounds of your event. If you scrub out, jump into the next one. For me, going into this weekend on Saturday, I'm going to be doing Standard. I'm going to be playing Standard, kind of see how I feel, if I feel like the Sunday Classic is going to be worth it. The entry for the 2 Standard events is $40 a piece. If I do the all-day pass, it's going to cost me $80. So it's the same cost, but now if I do the $80 pass, I'm going to feel obligated to wrap up my first event run to my second event. There's literally, I think, 4 hours between the two events, the start of the two events. So if something happens and I actually end up doing well, or I go to time in my first event, I'm gonna possibly not make it to my second event in time, and now I've just lost out. So the all-day passes, in my opinion, unless you're grinding multiple events, is not worth it. The exception to this rule is when Star City was doing GPs last year, they actually did a first thing in the morning sealed event that you were allowed to use your all-day pass to get into. So in essence, you're paying for your all-day pass. You can go to the sealed event, get 6 packs of the new product, drop, and go play your modern, your standard, or whatever, and then the value is there. But in the case of these events, I really, personally, unless you're getting sealed product, I don't see the value in that. Another thing I've noticed with the Star City events is their pricing is immensely better at the events than it is on their website. Star City is notorious for overpricing, high prices, paying low buy-in prices, buy list prices. At the events, I actually buy lists to Star City, and I get buy lists from people. Like, I encourage people to buy lists to me, but a lot of times I'll look at the money I can make on a card, and I just say, well, it's easier to just buy list it because I won't have fees and I can pick up something else. And their bulk buy listing is fantastic. On top of that, the other secret about Star City, not really a secret, but the other tip about Star City games is their HP damaged case is what some people would consider moderately played cards, sometimes even lightly played. And the prices are insane. I had a scenario once where I was looking for ether vials a day of an event because I needed them for the event. They were roughly $50 to $55 a piece. I bought an entire play set for $110 out of the damaged rack, and they were all sleeve playable, and yeah. So about the event, get there early. If you're trying to register for an event the day of, give yourself time. Don't be rushing in late. If you buy the all-day pass also, get there early. You want to get as many of the events in as you can. This is great time. Just talk to people, have a good time. Do beware of the predatory traders. You'll know the guy. He's going to have 18 binders. He's going to have boxes full of cards unsleeved, saying take whatever you want out of there, and I'm going to trade with you out of your binder. And it's just like, these are guys that run stores like me. They're not trading for the benefit of trading. They're trading purely for profit. And I know Channel Fireball or Watts here, somebody made an announcement that this practice is going to be outlawed at big events. It's still going to happen. Shop around the buy list too at the stores, because a lot of times the buy list pricing is ridiculously high at the big events. So watch out for the predatory traders, and try to have a good time. Meet some artists, do that kind of stuff, and just kind of take it all in if this is your first event you're going to. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great time. I'm not sure if we're going to get a Friday video out this week, but we'll definitely be back with Monday with a recap after the weekend. Thanks guys, take care.